Welcome to Home Remodeler Toolbox, the podcast dedicated to empowering remodelers and builders to build and grow successful businesses. Join your host, Bob Vance, founder of Home Remodeler SEO, as he brings you industry insights and strategies that will help you build a thriving business, no matter what level you're at in your business. Whether you're a thriving multi-million-dollar business or you're working on building your business from the foundation up, this podcast is your go-to source for industry secrets and actionable strategies that you can implement in your business to get to that next level. So, turn on, tune in, and let's help you build your business foundation one building block at a time.
In this episode of Home Remodeler Toolbox, we're diving into one of the biggest challenges facing our industry: finding, training, and keeping great people. And there's no one better to talk about this than Heather Luhn from the Home Builders Institute, the workforce development arm of the NAHB. Heather brings a frontline perspective on what it really takes to strengthen the trades pipeline. Through HBI, she works with Job Corps, military programs, and academies that offer free, hands-on training, especially for high-need and justice-involved populations who are ready for a second chance and a solid career. In this episode, Heather shares what most employers don't realize. The cost of replacing an employee is far higher than investing in their growth. She talks about building trust, retaining people through professional development, and how small shifts can transform team engagement. If you've been struggling with recruitment, retention, or building a stronger team, Heather offers practical, actionable advice you can put to work today.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Home Remodeler Toolbox podcast today. Today, we've got Heather Luhn on. Heather, thank you for coming on the show today. We looking forward to some great insights from you. Yeah, it's such a unique company that you work for, a nonprofit. You know, you really are trying to help with probably what I feel is one of the biggest struggles and obstacles facing the construction industry for builders and remodelers, and that's workforce development and staffing, just trying to find people to fill these roles, people you can trust, people that are going to stick around. Tell us a little bit about Home Builder Institute and your role with them, just to kind of give people a background on what you guys do.
So HBI, Home Builders Institute, was born out of the National Home Builders Association. So we're the workforce training arm of the NAHB. And it started over 50 years ago. Job Corps, which is one of our largest contractors, or we're one of the larger contractors with the Department of Labor. We are providing trades training to Job Corps centers across the U.S. And that grew. Eventually, it became, something where we needed to go outside of Job Corps, and we wanted to grow in the building in Washington, D.C., same division. We have all these little pieces of the pie. So Job Corps is still a very large piece of the pie. Schools around the country can license our curriculum and provide trades training to high school or middle school age students. We have a military services division, and so we are in or near active military bases across the U.S. Right now, we're in 10 locations, and our role there is to really provide some trades training to transitioning service members who, maybe just want an extra skill, or maybe just, need something to train on to be able to figure out how does my skill set from the military work in civilian life, bridge that gap. We have another division called the Academies. And so this is very much a vision of our current CEO, Ed Brady. And we have Charlotte, Sacramento, Phoenix, Orlando, New Orleans, and now Puerto Rico, where we have free trades training. You can just walk in. There's no requirement. There's no minimum. You are free. And within 9 weeks, you have a certificate. And so you're much more leveled up in your employment opportunities. And we help place you in the community, hopefully at a job that you are looking forward to. And then my division is the community and correction. So I oversee all of our corrections contracts, and these vary in what they are, but in a residential center, maybe they are there for years, multiple years, a short time. but they in the United States. And so we offer trades training inside of the facility, pre-release for individuals who, have been told their whole life that they don't have any value or don't have any skills. We're trying to offer them something tangible that they can go re-enter society and use to create a different life for themselves or create a new trajectory. And then we have my community piece, which is still very often justice involved or very closely related, and so we have a couple of programs like Goodwill. We just partnered with Goodwill in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a great partnership. And they go out, they provide the location, and they actually go out and find people who are interested in a program, often recruiting from their stores, which is great. And they send them through a couple different pathways. They go through HBI training, they graduate, and then help place them. So we have different partnerships, different places that we're training people, young, older, and all of it's the same. We're trying to offer trades as an opportunity. The option, or maybe high school, you didn't finish high school. This is still something tangible that they can skill off. That's HBI. I think I probably forgot a vision, but hopefully that's the majority of them. And I started back in 20 after COVID, or kind of when we were coming out of COVID. I just had a career change and stumbled upon HBI. But sure, why not? Let's try it out. And I started up here in the Boston area. I live outside of Boston. And the job was called Regional Career Development Coordinator, which is a very common position at HBI. It's essentially our career coach. We are responsible for placing people once they've exited or when they're near graduating from one of our programs. We are out there advocating for them, finding employers who are interested in hiring them, and then bridging that gap, helping our students get the confidence to go meet the interview, apply for the job, and then bringing employers into the facility or onto our training site so that the employers are meeting and gaining that trust for our students, but vice versa too. These are oftentimes students who don't trust employers or don't trust the boss, and
Right.
and so you're kind of rebuilding that trust with them. And I loved that work. I loved going out, talking about carpentry. That was the skill. That's the trade that we were teaching in Boston. I just, pretended like I knew everything about carpentry. I would go to the trainings and I would pick up words and vocabulary, and then I would use that when I called employers, and it was so great. It was effective. But I really did mean it too. I was
Right.
be authentic. But most importantly, what I really loved about that role specifically, street history, like maybe they just been released and never been in a halfway house. And so I really took a lot of interest in learning about recovery, and we were partnered with a great provider, and I did all of them because I just couldn't get enough. I was like, I have to figure out how to relate to these people and this population, and I have to understand what they're going through because the behaviors sometimes were challenging or erratic. And I just knew there's probably something I didn't understand. So I really loved learning about that. I feel like it developed big empathy for me, understanding, this population, the justice involved, kind of what the challenges and barriers that population was dealing with at the same time. And then on the flip side, it really helped me talk to employers because as I learned how to work with my students who are like, 40-year-old men, I think I was able to talk to the employers and say, hey, I've had a lot of success doing X, Y, Z, tweaks. And I have found that it's really impacted this, and that I really liked that conversation with employers because I felt like I was advocating for that population, but I could tell that employer had probably already hired a few people like this before who had challenges, and the employer was frustrated. And he was just like, well, I just, I've done this before. I can't do it again. I've been burned. And so I tried to share some different tweaks or suggestions or resources that I found to see if maybe he or she would be open to some changes in how he's practicing his business so that so
Right.
that was that job in a nutshell. It was a lot of learning for me. I came into it probably a little naive, to be honest. And but it was fun.
Yeah. I think a
Uh,
lot of employers probably they wanna push the big red easy button, right? And just hire the perfect employee that is perfect every day and will work for them until they retire or sell the business, and nothing will ever go wrong, and it's just gonna be magical in this fantasy land that people work in, and it's not the way it works out most of the time, if not all the time, and you're gonna have challenges with your employees, and instead of maybe having someone that, has a different kind of challenge. This is just a different type of challenge that you have to work with. This person is maybe they're coming out of prison or maybe they're trying to adjust from a life in the military. And it seems like it's just more about learning how to work with those folks and working with your institute to try to help bridge that gap because you guys have all that training and the knowledge and you see some of those red flags, if you will, or just things that pop up. You've seen it before. And so you know how to deal with it. And it's just a matter of probably working with the builders and the business owners, right? To help them see those things ahead of time. And then how will they work with that? How can they better align with that new employee of theirs? It doesn't mean they're not a bad fit. You just got to figure out how to work with that person, just like all of us have to do in all of our businesses. You don't get along with everyone perfectly. You just figure out how to work together.
learning experience for me, but I also think I just really encourage the people that I connected with, reach us out if you come back to me and say, hey, I'm having trouble. I might not know. I don't know everything, but maybe we could find a resource or maybe we could brainstorm. There's nothing better than a good brainstorm. We could sit around and just shoot some ideas and figure out, let's try this. And I said, now I can't blame you, obviously, if you've tried everything and you've come back to 6 times and it's still not working out. You're a business owner. I'm not going to force you to keep this person employed, but I think it says a lot about you as a business owner and the company as a whole that you tried everything. And I guarantee you, everybody else on your staff benefited from that. And you probably didn't even know that. So
Right.
just because you're kind of tweaking things for one person, it also means that your whole team does benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we do in our company is I have one-on-ones with all of our employees. I wish I had time to do it every month, but right now we're only doing it every quarter. But it just really gives a business owner a chance to learn about their employees and learn what makes them tick. What pushes their buttons the right way, what might push their buttons in the wrong way. And it's just a time for us to not really talk about work so much. I mean, we talk about how are things going, but it's more about, you know, are you happy? Are you developing your career path? Are you where you want to be? And having conversations like that and just kind of seeing where it takes people. I don't think, and I know a lot of business owners, and I don't think enough people have those check-ins with their employees to really figure out, are they happy? Are they where they want to be? Have you given them a vision for the career path? And I don't think enough business owners do that. Do you see the same thing with business owners that you work with as well?
Question. I think, when we were talking yesterday and last week, I had mentioned a story. I went to the networking event and met um, it was a business owner. He was a remodeler, and he made a comment to me that, because I was telling him a little bit about HBI and that we have these, they're not seasoned professionals, but I said, just young professionals or maybe people who are eager to learn. Oh, I'm tired of those people. I don't want to train anybody. I just want someone 15 years experience. And your question made me think of that because his complaint was that, he trains these people and then they would, and so he was mad. And he was mad for the wrong reason. He's mad that, he didn't want to train anybody else. But my mind went to, well, what are you doing to make him sad? You know, what are you doing that they all are leaving you? And so I think it's really good to step back and kind of be a little bit more introspective and saying, what have you poured in to your team to keep them interested? Because oftentimes they think that, the grass is greener on the other side, but help them understand, help them paint that picture ahead of time so that they understand, hey, this is great here. You have it really good, and we are a great team. Or you're pouring into them so much, they never even have an opportunity to look or think about what the other side looks like. And I didn't say that, obviously. I just met this man. So I didn't say that in the moment, but I was just curious, that's definitely, yeah, I'm always very introspective with my team and the people that I work with. Are we pouring in to the people around us? Are we asking the right questions? Are we hatching conflict before it blows up? So that certainly is very related to your one-on-one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as business owners, we all want all the magic to just happen. Like the business just runs and it grows and everyone's happy, your clients are happy, but you're asking for a lot, for that to happen. And so, in reciprocation for that, you as the business owner have to put that energy back in to make sure that happens, to guide people, to have those discussions, to make sure people that everyone is on your bus it should be on your bus, because we use that saying, that maybe not everyone deserves a seat on your bus. They're just not a good fit for your company, maybe. But a lot of times it's usually, maybe it's the right person, but they're in the wrong seat and you just need to find a better role for them. Maybe that's part of it. But I think it's something that business owners can certainly put some more time into, whether it be leadership development or understanding the psychology of people. And, because different things make people tick a little differently. And it's just something that business owners, I don't hear enough conversations around that. I guess I should leave it at that, but it's certainly something we could be better at.
We have perception that you don't have time for it. And
Yeah,
I know that there's always a cost, right? Business owners, they value discussion in money, right? Let's put it in monetary terms. It's going to cost more to replace the money than
absolutely.
to invest in them. So
Yeah.
didn't answer the full question that you asked me right away, which is, my trajectory with HBI. But after I was a career coach, I moved into the operations manager role at HBI. And so I was in charge of overseeing all of the adult correctional programs. So we have both adult and juvenile programs. And this was a huge responsibility for me. It was a total leap of faith. I appreciated the opportunity to even do it. But frankly, I'm here for the mess. We had a lot of vacancies. We were not utilizing contracts. We were doing so bad that the company was not even budgeting the full contract amount because they didn't believe that we could even make it. So it wasn't level, not to mention the partner like us because we weren't doing a good job. So I don't blame them, right? But I learned a lot. It was kind of like one of those like wide-eyed and was like, all right, let's see what we can do. And I got to know a lot of the people. I learned a lot more about the correctional facilities and kind of what makes them what's at the top of their priority list is probably not the same at the top of our priority, And I think I told you this story yesterday or earlier when we were speaking, that we kept having these team meetings and the same problems kept being, it's like, this issue happened here, and this issue happened here, or we still have this data issue, or people aren't understanding this. And I just said, you know what? We are not doing team meetings anymore. We're doing team meetings. So we flipped the script, and every meeting that we had, I put in the effort and I found some kind of free online thing that required maybe 10 minutes of your time. But you came to that meeting having read the article And I even probed some questions in advance. So instead of the meetings being me talking blah, 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 here's the updates, let's go around the robin, you know, boring, let's just forget about all that and start addressing some problems that are going on. So we started training on about misuse history or history of justice involvement. We started talking about it's just whatever I could find, really. I just started, finding communication best practices, you know. And so people would come, and it was so great to see that transition because all of a sudden everyone's guards went down. We started talking about our own personal experiences with these things, and we just grew so close as a team. My team was in Colorado, Florida, in Illinois, in Boston, and it was like we were all in the same room. We all were so friendly, and we all knew each other, and we all trusted each other. And it was you would have never guessed that those people weren't working together in the same building on a daily basis because we felt connected all the time. We were having great conversations. And slowly I started to see some of those issues go away because they were learning in our training, but also they were less afraid to ask, started asking for help, which was great because then I can help you. I don't
Right.
know if it will help you if I don't know what's going on. So it was such a great flip. I had a really great team. I got some great staff and uh, character to those meetings. And so it's always great to have some of those people. So just a really fun time for me to see. And now those contracts are fully realized. We've been very successful. In under 2 years, we are fully staffed. We had no turnover. We were realizing all the contracts are again. They were advocating for our program, something that was just so small. And I think that I'm not a business owner, but I did lead that team. And I think that's a really great leap. It was very small. There was not a lot of time on my hands. I really only put in maybe 30 minutes of preparation time into each of those meetings. But the impact was huge. And so that's really one of my proudest moments working at HBI is, it's not really a moment as much as a movement.
Yeah.
I really I really appreciate that story and I like thinking back about it because that team is really special to me. That and I know I'm not an operations manager anymore, but that's kind of my natural state, I would say, is operations management. I love working with people and I love trying to figure out what makes them tick and what is at the real root of the problem here. So
No, no, that's great. Thanks for sharing that story because it's amazing. It was literally a semantics shift, a shift from one word from meeting to training, and it kind of sparked a whole movement, really a paradigm shift in your company and how people viewed these meetings. Because a meeting, people go, oh, guys, another meeting, blah blah blah. It's just going to drone on and on. But when you're like, we're going to do a training today, now people are like, ooh, cool. What are we going to learn? And you get I think you probably had people be sitting up in their seats a little more engaged and really wanting to learn and see how can they contribute, how can they kind of take in some of this information, like you said, like the thing you just mentioned, understanding the psychology of an incarcerated person. I would have never thought of that till you just mentioned that. Like that's something that you have to take into an account. Like these people have not had the same life that we have had, probably throughout their whole life, much less the time that they were incarcerated. So how do you how do you work with them? How do you try to help, try to understand them so that you can have a better working relationship and they can be a productive member of your company as well as of society? It's pretty cool what you guys have done with that.
it did. For me too, I know I'm not a set. I do pick up on people's strengths and really what they know. I was just in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, and I was meeting this instructor at a new program for the first time, and he said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Yeah, there's always a gesture, there's always a this," and then he named all these positions. Dude, I had no idea, and so I encouraged the asked if would you ever be interested in training everybody on that, training your team, training your colleagues, because I bet they'll be so fascinated to know that. And, not to say that he's a subject matter expert, but he obviously knew something about it. I didn't know anything. So, and that's happening this Friday, actually. So we
Cool.
turned it into something. I just picked up, something interesting that he said, and I said, "What's wrong with it?" And so I try to bring these either skill sets or strengths of whatever the team is, and I have them present. And so they're all teachers, they're all in the field, with their classes. So I know that they shouldn't have a problem presenting online or presenting on a virtual. And if they do, it's good practice. We should all be able to present in a virtual setting because that's just how the world works, right? So
Right.
I think it's been a good growth for individual instructors, and I've paired people together who don't work together and said, "Hey, I noticed you guys both are really good at this. I want you guys to work together and deliver a training next Friday for our team." And I don't have any parameters. I just say, go for it. Whatever you come up with is great. And to me, that's really important too. It's not just providing a training, but really dipping into the strengths of your team to provide the training to each other, to share
Right.
that.
Yeah. So speaking of training, this makes for a good segue. When we're talking about like maybe working with military veterans and trying to get them training, does HBI work with regional or local vocational or trade schools, or do you guys have your own training program set up?
All of it is our own training program. Anything that's not a license program. So we license the schools, and so the schools hire their educators, and they run that program. So all of our military programs are correct. They're all operated by HBI. So we have a big operations team. We recruit students 8 weeks. It really depends on the funder and location. And then we place them. So we have a dedicated staff to do each of those things. We have a dedicated staff who's recruiting. We have a dedicated staff who's placing. We have dedicated staff who's training them. And our training is not just sitting in a computer or a classroom. It's hands-on. So you're out there learning about every saw, learning how to cut it over and over. You're learning how to wire outlets, wire switches, wire smoke detectors, wire lights, and the electrical panel. You're doing it. And then when you do it, you take it down and you do it again. So it's just a lot of, rinse and repeat because it's an art, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're arts. And that's how you get better. And a lot of our instructors will do races or contests between students. So towards the end of a skill or at the end of a class, maybe a unit that they're working on, they'll say, okay, we're going to have a relay or a race to see who can do this the fastest. But it's about quality too, it has to be done right. But the way that it's done sometimes can differ because it is.
Right. Right. Obviously, I mentioned at the beginning of our interview here together, I think the biggest challenge that I hear over and over facing the construction industry is lack of staffing, lack of a workforce out there. I saw a stat somewhere recently that we have a shortage of over 500,000 people in the workforce. I think that number is probably much more than that. Do you think that not enough builders, remodelers out there know about programs like HBI, that they can find talent from these programs? Because I know everyone, they want to grow. They want to grow their business. That's why they went into business. And HBI's goal is, in a nutshell, is to help these business owners grow their business. You're providing the talent, the workforce for them. Do you think there's just a lack of knowledge about Home Builders Institute and how you help companies and business owners? Or what do you think is the disconnect there?
And we don't have a ton of national partnerships. A national employer is less likely to partner with HBI because they probably have really high standards or really high background checks. We have a lot with different community nonprofits and different organizations to do community work and to try to get out, find some of those mom and pop businesses in the area to really gain that trust. Because if we can get the owner or the hiring manager to come to our location multiple times, again, I kind of allude back to that, that's the trust thing. The employer, maybe they find out about our population or they learn some details about it's interesting, this population is justice involved. And they hesitate. But if I can get them to come in multiple times and gain their trust and they can see, wow, you guys do great hands-on training. This is impressive. I really want to give a chance to some of these people. Or if they come in multiple times and they see the same kid come in, I don't mean that in a necessarily youth, but maybe an unemployed person. Additionally, we think, oh, someone's unemployed, they're not reliable, they're not going to show up. But if you come to my program and you see the same people showing up every day, you start to think, wow, if I up every day, I might be able to give this person a tool. And on the flip side, too, that the student, maybe they've had that experience of working before. Maybe they've been taken advantage of in different ways. And so they see the same employer show back up. So I think that local relationship is really where we succeed because we're able to have people come in, we're able to build those trust touch points. And yeah, we really want all of our students to be employed. I think sometimes we have to convince them to be employed. And that's sometimes the hardest job is, what value does employment bring, and what is the career trajectory? Yeah. What could you be doing?
Right.
That I hear that a lot from staff. It's like, well, they don't want to work. What's your job? They you have to kind of convince them or really help them understand why, what is the value here? So yes,
Right.
you're everywhere, everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Yeah.
We're in a lot of rural places, especially
Okay.
our academies are in big cities. But if you think of a correctional facility, it's usually in the middle of nowhere. Um, it's just it's a tricky population because we have to figure out where all those people are going and how to connect with those businesses wherever they're going.
So are you guys in cities in every state all over America, or is it just mainly the regional academies that you have set up in certain areas?
It's the regional, so both, yes. Uh, we are in 48 states with Job Corps. And so those are Job Corps sites, but they might be one city or one town in a state. And then our academies are in bigger cities. So Orlando, New Orleans, San Francisco, and Puerto Rico. We're just now in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Honduras Academy.
Oh, cool.
So that's and I oversee that one. So it's a especially challenging location and especially important to me as I oversee the operation.
You might need to take more trips down there, right? To oversee things. Bring your bathing suit.
Yeah, very humid, very hot. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's been an enjoyable location. Very nice people and very high need population.
Okay.
Yeah, all of our academies are definitely in metropolitan areas. Very accessible. We try to find places that are accessible on the main road or the main bus line.
How do how do how do you get builders to connect with you? Is that more of your outreach, or are you guys doing job fairs, career fairs where you can meet builders, remodelers that come through those to see, if there's any opportunities for them? Is that where you're mainly meeting them through kind of your own grassroots kind of outreach?
Say yes, we are. I mean, we do have a website and they're either hosting their own job fairs at their site. So they're inviting a handful of employees to come in on a weekly or monthly basis. Or we're going to local fairs. We're going out to local fairs. We're bringing our students with us so they can, pass out their resumes and talk about what they're doing. Kind of stuff that is great practice. I would love to put my students in a position where they had forced to talk to somebody about your skill. But yes, definitely grassroots. We're always trying to recruit employers. If it's across multiple locations, that's a super bonus, but it's not.
Okay. And you said you're aligned with the NAHB. Do you also try to align yourself with as many local HBAs across the country, the local home builder associations that are part of the NAHB as well?
Definitely. They're a huge support. I mean, a lot of times the local home builders, sometimes they help fund our program. They'll donate a tool. They'll, if they hear that we're having a job fair, they'll send out a notification to all their builders, and the builders will call me to be a part of that job fair. They host lunches. I mean, super, super rewarding relationship with the local home builders association. Some of them are, obviously better than others, but I would say that that was a huge advocate here in Boston. The local home builders association donated tools, came to every graduation, showed up and donated tools for our community service. I mean, it was like, what am I doing to deserve all these gifts? It's so great.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. One of the things that you told me when we recently spoke was that the federal government actually has a bonding program for your employees as well, kind of just a little bit of a safety net, I guess, for, for taking that risk of maybe hiring, someone that's coming out of a prison or what have you. How does that federal bonding program work?
Yeah, that's a good resource. So that is a common barrier, I think, for a business owner. I I think a very big guess would be, oh, if you go to an employer and you're selling somebody who has a record, they're gonna say, oh, well, no thanks. But most of the time, the construction business, they're like, oh yeah, well, we hire people with record all the time. That's not a big deal. But they did appreciate knowing about the federal bonding program because they hire somebody with a record or has a history of justice involvement at some point in their life. To them, that person is more likely to be a risk, right? And so if they're into this sites or this people's homes, um, the federal bonding program basically offers a insurance, so if something were to happen, it's not going to affect the business as greatly as it would without it. I don't know all the details of it, but I do know if you just Google federal bonding program, it's a good resource to have.
Yeah.
Talk about it in all of our programs.
Okay. And like you said, it just takes a little bit of that risk out of the equation. When builders are thinking about hiring someone through the Home Builders Institute, one of their concerns is going to be that risk of maybe an incarcerated person. Not the same risk if you're hiring a military veteran that's probably squared away pretty well. But, then they also worry about, do they have the experience? But you guys are training them. They earn a certificate. They can put that on their resume now, and that's going to really stand out that, they didn't just work a few different jobs. They actually had, real training on the job, training as well as in the classroom training.
I do hope that even through this podcast and just kind of talking about HBI, that if an employer does see somebody with HBI on their resume, it's not, just another line item, but it's, oh, what is HBI? I knew about this. It's a program, it's skills training. So maybe it offers a little bit more legitimacy or value to that person. And that is our goal. I would always tell my graduates, you can go work as a laborer without HBI. But with a GI certificate, maybe you can advocate for yourself and say, why I deserve a couple dollars more per hour because I already know them. I already know, so, you can kind of advocate, like you're going to reduce 6 months of training, but that is value. And so that was always kind of what I told them. Like, you still might be a laborer, but you're like a laborer plus.
Right, right. Yeah. That's that, extra credentialing almost that you could, put behind your name. It gives you a little more credibility, a little more authority to, what you've learned and the job that you can do maybe versus someone else. So that's pretty cool.
Definitely.
Um, it's been great learning about HBI and the role that you guys are playing in the construction industry. As we wind down here, do you have any stories, any students that you've worked with that just really stands out for you, the rewarding experience that you felt maybe from the students' perspective as well?
Yes, we had a graduate from one of our correctional facilities to the correctional facility this past spring. And he reached out to us. It had been a little over 5 years since he graduated. And this is the first time he reached out and he said, "Hey, I'm really proud of myself. I'd love to come back and talk about my success." And it all started from HBI. And piqued my interest. And so I said, "Sure, let's do that. Let's have him come back." And, I don't really know him. Um, but he did come back. He came back dressed in his workwear. He was very proud, looked good, very professional. And we got him cleared, come back in the facility. And we just said, "The floor is yours, whatever you want to talk about." And he proceeded to tell everybody that HBI was a pivotal moment in his life. He chose to come here, he took it seriously. And he knew that if he turned to Chicago, he would end up in the same place. He'd end up back in that facility. So he said we made it a goal that as soon as he got released, we moved out of state. He moved to California, got a job as an electrical apprentice, and worked his way up. Now he's a journeyman. And he always made it a goal. He wanted to get the journeyman status. So we tracked down his instructor. We invited him. We made sure he was there. And just to kind of surprise us all, he, told a story, told about some of the hardships that he had and some of the struggles, and that it wasn't all just, sunshine and roses. It was very hard for him to move out of state. He said he made a point to show up to work every day, and he said, "I wanted to be the best. If the job started at 6, I was there at 4. I got there 2 hours early every day because I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be remembered." And he really put in the work. He, in the middle of the speech, pulled out in his back pocket his pay stubs, multiple copies of his pay stubs, and he started passing it around to all the inmates that were sitting there listening to him, all men. And he said, "I want you to take a good look at my pay stubs because I guarantee you it's more than everybody else in this room is making." And he was right. I mean, it was just, we all, laughing. And they're like, "That's good." And he said, "This could be you, or you could be right back in this training for another 5 years. So you have to make the choice. What are you going to do?" And I think to this day, we still talk about that, me and my colleagues, because it affected all of us. I mean, it's like, "You're so proud." I'm like, "I barely know you, and I'm so proud of you."
Right, right.
He was so motivational. He spoke directly, and he's looking at every single person in the class. He was talking to them, and they really heard him because it wasn't me. So it was so valuable, and really, really affected everybody in that room.
Wow, that's a cool story. Yeah, that's pretty impactful to just say, "Look, I was in here with you guys, and now look, I'm passing around copies of the checks that I'm cashing every week, and you can choose
Thank you for
to go that
everything.
route, or
Thank
you
you.
can." Yeah,
Yeah, he was just bragging about his whole life. I mean, he should. I said, "This is great." Just talking, he's like, "I've been to Greece and Italy and all these places. I've been to all this great stuff." He's like, "So you could go to all those places, or you could come right back here. It's up to you guys." And it's just
yeah.
great.
You make that choice. That's awesome. Well, that's great. I'm really, really glad you shared that story. I know that you're really, you work with the correctional facilities, and it's your role. So I bet there's some rewarding stories, probably some tough stories, some disappointment, some frustration in there. You're serving up this opportunity on a silver platter, and not everyone's going to take a bite of the cake, and that's just the way it is. That opportunity is there. If you want to take it, take it. But for any builders out there, are there anything that you would suggest in getting a hold of you, or reaching out and just, via the website? How would they connect with Home Builders Institute if they wanted to see if there's a program near them that they can get involved with?
For our website, hbi.org, there is an interactive map on there where you can see, well, certainly you can reach out. My team is community@hbi.org. And if you don't know where to go, you can always email me and I'll find the right person for you. And I think for employers, if you don't, if you aren't near an HBI, it's really just, being aware and looking out for us at Ecopia, helping us promote. We are always looking for, and we're always looking for a great partner. And that might not be necessarily a funder or, someone that's hiring, but maybe you are owning a business near HBI and you could let our students come out and just tour your facility or tour your work site one day. That's a great opportunity too. That's real. They can touch it. So
Yeah.
even just that simple act makes a huge difference. It's just one of those extra pieces that helps students trust you and see, wow, this is real. I'm not just here, wasting my time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for giving everyone a way to connect with you, Heather. Really enjoyed having you on the episode today. Some great information. Love the work that HBI is doing. Your mission, your core values, and really just trying to make the world a better place. One new construction worker at a time, really. But thank you for coming on the episode. We really appreciate having you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, that's it, everyone. That's a wrap for this episode. Thanks for turning on and tuning in here to the Home Remodeler Toolbox, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Hey, if you liked our podcast, join the remodeling community and hit subscribe. We would love to hear from you, so be sure to share your thoughts on what you might want to hear about in future episodes. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit homeremodelerSEO.com and check out our services that can help build your foundation for success. Thanks for tuning in to the Home Remodeler Toolbox podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.